All right, all right. Welcome into another episode of the Three Fantasy Boys podcast. We are your hosts and three fantasy boys, Steve Duncan, Ryan Sams, and myself, Mikey Mize. Thanks for joining us again this Monday, April 19th podcast. We drop every Monday. If you're new to us, thanks for joining. Real quick, we're 1 week out from NFL draft week, which is an exciting week. Obviously, we're not seeing real football yet, but we're getting closer, and we're starting to get those preseason jitters and excitement about our teams and our fantasy teams and all that. So today's episode, we're going to be going over a lot of great prospects, a lot of great skill position prospects, specifically running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, or Kyle Pitts, however you want to say it. I think we have another tight. I think we have another tight end, but yeah, we're going
It's
over
Kyle
those.
Pitts pretty much.
Yeah.
It is Kyle
Yep.
Pitts, if we're being honest. But you never know, man. You never know which one of these guys might, step up and even get put in a big position. So that's what we're going over today. Yeah. So how are you guys feeling today, Steve and Rye?
Good,
Feeling
man.
good?
Yeah, good. I finally watched Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah. How was it?
It's good. It's good. It's not something I normally watch. I don't watch the Godzilla or King Kong movies typically, but I liked it.
Oh wow, really? Even Peter Jackson's King Kong? Come on now.
Yeah, with Jack Black.
I know, right?
It took him
You
like
haven't li-
2 hours to get to the Monkey Island. I
I
fell
know,
asleep
right?
twice. I was like, what the hell?
You haven't lived until you've watched that in like a surround sound, like in your uncle's basement with like back in the day, big screen TV.
Yeah, you got experience with that? Being in your
Uh,
uncle's basement?
I mean, yeah, that's my uncle,
Yeah.
right?
Um,
Don't make us weird,
Yeah.
Steve. No, just kidding.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was good.
It's all right.
It's all right.
Ryan's got the red bandana on today, so we're rocking with that kind of feel, whatever
I just
that means. Whatever.
I just started keto, so you both look like giant French fries. I want to eat you
What
both.
is? So, okay, give me a rundown of keto. Like, what do you eat?
So the way that the cart pusher at Kroger described it to me is you eat as much meat as you want all the time. You don't worry about calories, and you eat butter. And I've been doing that most of my life just with French fries and potatoes. So you cut that out, success.
Yeah, I tried keto I think last year and cutting out carbs and a lot of natural fats from steak or meats in general. So
Yeah. But yeah, it's more of like a focus on vegetables, meat. You just cut out sugar, the really
How do you-
bad one.
How do you feel like energy wise? Like, are you like,
This is
Yeah.
day 2.
okay.
So right now I definitely have like brain fog. It's supposed to get better and you're supposed to have more energy and like more focus after your body learns to like burn the fat as energy, is what I understand it to be, because it's so used to like using those quick carbs to like help your brain. With this right now,
Right.
you're kind of like training your body to use that fat store as energy. So we'll see what
Interesting.
happens.
Yeah, let me know how it goes for you. I'm interested in hearing how that goes. I've never done like any of the big trends that are out right now, keto or what's the other one? That's like you eat like a caveman essentially. Like
Yeah, I forget what it's called.
isn't
yeah,
the
I can't remember.
carnivore diet? Is that
No,
the
not
one?
carnivore.
Oh.
But I am willing to try
That-
carnivore too.
Yeah.
But I love my carbs. I just like having good carbs. Like every now and then, whole wheat
Yeah.
grain. Yeah, zombie mode.
That caveman is paleo.
Paleo. That's right. Yeah.
So I think you go out and you actually take an axe and a tomahawk and you kill your food.
Yeah. Only eat berries from the dirt.
Yep.
Recycled berries. All right. Well, now that we're done talking, diets and all that, let's get into these wide receivers, huh?
Let's go.
So obviously, like we know who the top prospects are. We hear about these guys, the three big names, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, and Jalen Waddle. Excuse me. Those guys are the guys that played at big schools. They had breakout seasons, Heisman winners, Devonta Smith. Like these are the guys that are going to be studs on pretty much whatever team they go to. So the fantasy value is kind of expected, which also I guess leads to more like letdowns if they don't produce. But we're gonna talk about these guys anyway. These guys are the studs. We'll start with the number one projected Jamar Chase, LSU receiver, 6'1.5", 200 pounds, very fast. He runs a 40 and 4.38, 41-inch vertical. So he's just pretty much just like what you look for in an NFL receiver. He's physical. He gets a lot of comparisons to guys like Julio Jones, the way he plays. He makes big time catches in traffic. He's great at route running. There's a lot of good to say about him. So I think pretty much wherever he goes, he's probably going to have an impact, and he's projected in the top 10. So we'll see. What do you guys think about Jamar Chase?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Anybody can chime in here.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I like Chase a lot. I like really all the top guys, especially fantasy purposes. I think Chase, very fast, very smooth in general. And there's a reason, he sat out all year and he's still considered the top guy as far as a receiver. And
you guys think that's going to impact him and coming into the league, sitting out a whole year? I mean, it was a COVID year, but
no, I don't think so. I think he's still got training in, and he's definitely he's still did workouts and got training in. So I don't think it'll affect him as that much. He didn't get a chance to play against competition in a game, but I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, and the fact that he's still projected in the top 10 after sitting out a year tells you a lot about the confidence they have in his ability to play. Like I'm thinking he's going to go probably 6th to the Miami Dolphins because they just want to shore up that receiving core. And like you were saying, Jamar Chase is more of like the total package in terms of how dynamic he is on the field. You can pretty much line him up anywhere. He comes from that LSU pedigree. Like we have Justin Jefferson coming out of there. I forget the name of the other wide receiver, but I think he's
Terrace Marshall.
There you go. Like they're the wide receiving core in LSU, no joke, this past couple of years.
Terrace Marshall Jr., excuse me.
There we go.
But yeah, I agree. And another place I've seen him projected to land is Cincinnati. Ryan and I talked about this.
Yeah.
How would that be playing with his old quarterback? They already have some built-in chemistry. That would probably be great for Joe Burrow, but he also needs an offensive line so he can get the ball off. But, that's another story.
You know that he wants him. Like,
absolutely.
He definitely does. But I think, Steve mentioned it before, is I don't think Cincinnati's going to pass on picking up Penei Sewell just because he's just so good. And like you said, they need to protect Burrow. Why did he not play last year? Because his line failed him.
100%.
Yep. And that could have been real quick. That could have been real beneficial for Chase is not playing this year because Burrow left. Because I'm sorry, I forget. I cannot say the name of LSU's quarterback right now, but that could be real beneficial for Chase. Playing with Burrow, and being since Burrow left, Chase just sitting out because I don't think Chase could have got any higher than what he is. So
yeah, he definitely made a smart business decision in sitting out. Obviously, if he's got the skill, he's got all the talent, he has the film. He's going in the top 10. That's where he's projected, and I think that's where his talent is at as well. I'm pretty high on him as well. So another SEC, or the other two SEC guys, both from Alabama. Like I said before, Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. And this is kind of an interesting one because they're on the same team. Jalen Waddle kind of had his breakout earlier, and then Devonta Smith, we saw what he did in the national championship game and last year. Heisman winner, obviously, which I find him the most curious out of all of them because a lot of people have him projected, going late first, maybe, I've seen him projected as late as, no, I haven't seen him in the second, but yeah, late first, which I thought was insane for a Heisman winner. You know, they have him like 6 in their wide receiver rankings. It's like, what? You know, like I don't.
Yeah.
We're talking about Devonta Smith here. Like this guy has the most polished route running, in my opinion. He's just what you see on film is a all-around football player. He knows where the play's going. He has a feel for the game. He knows how to get open. He knows what he needs to do after he catches it. He focuses on his catches. Yeah, he's 6'1", 175 pounds. He's got a small frame. So obviously people are going to, talk down on him for that. But, I mean, the dude's fast. You know, he's not like blazing speed, but he's fast enough to get it done. His 2020 stats, he had 18,076 yards and 23 receiving touchdowns. When you look at his ball skills, his footwork, how he makes catches, on the boundaries, whether that be the end zone or the sideline, he's just an NFL talent when you see him make those plays. And yeah, that's I see kind of like a small Odell. Odell's obviously bigger, but like he makes those plays that you look at and you're just like, whoa, like that's not normal, even for an NFL receiver. So what do you guys think about Devonta Smith?
I just like his processing.
Processing.
The way that he processes the field. And I definitely think if the Lions don't take like a linebacker or a defensive player with their first pick and Devonta is available, I think they're going to pick him. Because I just think he, like you said, he's just that good. And the knock on his size, it's really not everything when it comes to receiver. Like how big's Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill is super fast, but a lot of
more weight on him. Yeah.
He got some more weight on him, Can Devonta put on weight and still produce like that? I guess that would be the question. Do they want him to? The key for him is going to be getting drafted to the right place where they can see his skill set, and let's just hope that he goes to the right spot.
Yep,
that's a good point. And you think the Lions? You think the Lions would be a good fit for him? Because I don't see.
Not in the long run, you know. But I think if they see that talent, and because it's the Lions need defense, they really do.
Yeah.
And if they don't pick him up, is he going to be good with Jared Goff? Who knows? But I could see the Lions not wanting to pass on the talent that is Devonta.
Right. And Cincy and Miami, I wouldn't put them out of the question either. I mean, both of those teams kind of need to shore up their receiving cores, and I think that he immediately, really any of these three guys have the potential to do it, but I think Devonta Smith is in my opinion, he's probably the safest. He's coming off a big season. He's probably got it full head of steam, a lot of confidence. Yeah, he's got a small frame, but that hasn't obviously stopped him before playing at SEC level. So like that means nothing to me. And if he goes to one of those places that have a young quarterback with a lot of potential, like a Burrow or a Tua, I think that they could have a lot of great seasons ahead of them in those two locations. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, as I say, fantasy wise, you don't want him going to the Lions.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah.
You don't. No.
Yeah. But if you're a dynasty, so if you're a dynasty team and you pick up Devonta Smith, maybe in middle end of your first round, or maybe even at the beginning, depending on how your league, obviously. And say you had a Burrow or two, and he goes to one of those places, then you're, stacking that team. That potentially be good for a few, years to come. So we'll see how that plays out. Jalen Waddle, obviously he was banged up by injury. He's 5'10", 182 pounds. His estimated 40 time is 4.28, and I know that's kind of just an arbitrary number because he didn't run the 40. But when you watch him play, this is a guy that looks lightning fast on film. When you watch him outrun the DBs and the separation that he gets, and it's not just go routes, it's crossing routes and slants and hitches. I mean, the guy he looks like he's walking away from people. Obviously, like I said, he had injury, but he's one of those guys that plays inside and out. And I think if he's healthy, I think he has the most potential physically out of the top three. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree.
Fantasy.
Yep.
Yeah. If based on skill. Yeah.
Yep. If he's healthy, definitely. And it all depends on where he goes. I saw someone comped him to who was it? Tyreek Hill, which it's not a bad comp at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends. I think if Waddles is healthy, yeah, he probably has the best
So he's
ceiling out of all the guys.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So he's 5'10", 182 pounds. You know who else is 5'10", 185 pounds? Antonio Brown. And that dude was like MVP status when he was in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had all his things that happen. But I think when you look at these guys, they have a lot of the same skill set, but Jalen Waddle is faster, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
Could
Yeah,
you
he's-
imagine him falling to the Chiefs? And like the Chiefs love their speed running, like I mean wide receivers. They love guys that can jet. Could
Yeah.
you imagine both Tyreek Hill and Waddle lining up? That with Patrick Mahomes throwing to them, that would be insanity.
not to mention Mecole Hardman and
Yeah, right?
Travis Kelce and
That probably
that
won't
would
happen,
be,
but for
yeah,
fantasy
I don't think it would
purposes.
happen. Yeah.
Woo.
But yeah, for fantasy purposes, in my opinion, I think out of the three, I'm taking Jalen Waddle to have the highest ceiling, just because his physical ability. Like I said, when you watch him on film, he just looks so much faster than everybody. There's rumors that he raced Henry Ruggs senior year, and it was like a tie. It was like a photo finish tie, and Henry Ruggs ran the 40 in 4.28.
Yeah.
Which is, it's obviously bust the game wide open speed. And like I said, he seems like he was targeted less than Devonta Smith, but I think a lot of that came from his own ability. I think teams, when they watched Jalen Waddle early in his career, they said, we got to stop this guy on Alabama as far as the receiving core goes. And that opened it up for Devonta Smith to get his work and show what he could do. So in my opinion, I think Jalen Waddle was the reason that, not the sole reason, obviously, Devonta Smith is a Heisman winner baller, but I think he's at least a part of Devonta Smith's success.
I could see that. I could see that working together.
Yeah. And so what's your ideal landing spot for, I guess, any of these guys? Is it one of those guys that we talked about, Miami or Cincinnati? What do you guys think? Or is it, maybe an established offense already?
Jamar Chase would be the Bengals. I just think that Burrow, he's a gunslinger. And with Jamar Chase and then back, Jamar Chase's fantasy stock goes up, I think. But like Cincinnati's receiving core isn't bad necessarily. T. Higgins, I forget the other guy, but they definitely do need a receiver. I like Jamar Chase there. With Devonta, there are some people saying that he could land in Philadelphia or the Giants. So maybe Philly, because he could emerge, like with the way that Philadelphia's receiving core is right now, he could emerge as the number one this year, because he's that talented. Waddle, I don't know. It's tough. I'm not sure. Like, I would like to see him in Kansas City being thrown to by Patrick Mahomes, but that's probably not going to happen.
So what if Chase goes to the Bengals, plays with his former quarterback, and Smith or Waddles goes to Alabama, plays with their former quarterback, Miami, to play with Tua. Miami pulls the double. Don't they have 2 first-round picks? They get Waddles and Smith.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen, but
the way they would go is like the Falcons, because I think the Falcons are going to take Pitts. So the Falcons take Pitts, and then after that, the Bengals go Chase, and then after the Bengals, the Dolphins pick, right? Yeah, because the Dolphins pick at 6. So then they have, so then they would have the option, like you said, of either Devonta Smith or Jalen Waddle. I guess it depends on what they need, but that would be a good spot. Because I
agree.
Chemistry's there.
Chemistry's there. There are a lot of people low on Tua right now, which I understand why. But I think there's still potential there for Tua, and it raises Tua's stock as well for fantasy purposes if he gets one of his old dudes that he threw to at Alabama. That's a good point.
I agree. Just for an example of how close these guys are in a lot of people's rankings, Pro Fantasy Football has them ranked on their big board, number 6, 7, and 8. Chase, Smith, and Waddle, right back to back to back. So
Yeah.
I think, I mean, probably numbers will maybe tell you that one of these guys aren't going to live up to the potential, but I think you're pretty safe on drafting any of those guys to your
Absolutely.
team, especially in a dynasty format. The landing spot does matter, yes, but I think a lot of those guys, or all three of those guys, have the skill and the ability to get it done wherever they go. So that's just my opinion.
Yep.
If I
I'm
had
on
to
that.
pick, if I had to pick, like I said, I think I would go for the high ceiling and Jalen Waddle, and then Jamar Chase, and then Devonta Smith. And I know, like, I was just dogging people for putting the Heisman winner number 6, and I just put him number 3, but that's the margin between the three is so small to me that I could literally, you could ask me tomorrow and I could say Devonta Smith number 1, like, no
Yeah.
question. It's like
Yeah.
that. So you mentioned Kyle Pitts. We'll go right into him because he pretty much is the wide receiver 1. We're, the receiver number 1 in this whole thing that we're doing. In my opinion, he's 6'6", runs a 4.44. When you talk about, you mentioned Calvin Johnson last week, Steve. This guy is like Calvin Johnson-esque. I mean, you watch him play, and a lot of times when you watch college guys play, you don't, especially in the SEC, you don't really see a guy that stands out from everybody, and you're just like, that guy doesn't belong playing with everybody else on the field. And that's what I see in Kyle Pitts. It's like that guy is a man amongst boys in the SEC, and that's just all I have to say about him. He's gonna be an instant plug and play, Kelsey-esque ceiling tight end wherever he goes, especially if you're in a dynasty format with a tight end premium or a redraft. Tight ends are kind of like, if you don't have, the top 3 tight ends, top 4 tight ends, depending on the season, and you get Kyle Pitts, maybe in the 5th round, 4th round of your redraft league, I think that's like the highest. That's a crazy value because I think he's going to produce anywhere he goes. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Pitts is a special guy. I think the only knock against him is
He's
his
special boy.
blocking. That special boy. I think
Yeah.
his blocking is the only knock against him. Everything else, Pitts just does really well.
They're not going to need him to block.
Exactly, and wherever he goes, yeah, they're not going to need him to block. So
yeah, he's going to be picked first over any wide receiver in the draft. I think that he'll be picked, obviously over Jamar Chase. I definitely see the Falcons taking him. I don't see the Falcons needing a quarterback. Like, Matt Ryan is still not a slouch. And I just remember watching one of the New Orleans games, again, where they played New Orleans. He had no time to throw. Like, they need to shore up the line around Matt Ryan or get him. I mean, also Julio Jones is out. But, like, can you imagine Matt Ryan with a healthy Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and then Kyle Pitts? Like, we could see
scary.
like that. Yeah, we could see him come back. But he's gonna be picked super, super high, and I think it's justified with the points that you guys just made. He's just a phenom. Catch radius 6'6". He's got the mismatch.
Sorry.
All right, go on.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying, like, he's got the widest wingspan of any receiver, tight end, or wide receiver coming in as a rookie to the NFL. And sorry, Steve, but blocking is not a stat in fantasy football. So
there we go.
It's not a stat, but it helps your quarterback. And the quarterback gets on the stats. So
and your running back.
Helps your run game.
Your running back. Yep.
Helps your run game.
And there's a lot of 2 tight end sets now too. Don't forget about that. But,
yep.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Kyle Pitts. Yep. I'm excited to see Kyle Pitts and what he does. Like I said, if I'm drafting him, if I'm putting him in the 3 receivers that we just talked about, to me he's going in a rookie dynasty draft above all of them. And like I said, I think if a lot of guys are obviously going to be taking, your Kelce's, your Oakland tight end.
Waller,
yeah, yep. Darren Waller. And then obviously there's Mark Andrews, but like out of those 3 guys, if you can get Kyle Pitts behind those guys, like I said, as late back as the 3rd or 4th round, I think that's insane value for a tight end, even in a redraft. So there's
Yeah,
Yep.
Pitts would definitely be my first guy I take.
out of all those guys.
Oh, sorry, out of tight ends, no, but out
Oh,
of
sorry.
these, out of like on a
Oh, the
rookie
4.
draft for
Yeah, sorry, the
dynasty,
4.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
no, Pitts would be the guy to take. And all I
Yeah.
was saying, his when the only con you have is blocking,
Yeah.
you're doing good things, you know. So
Absolutely. And I don't even think it's like a knock. It's like a slight down arrow. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
even like he's bad at it. It's like I could get a little better.
that's the only thing we could find, so we got to say it.
Exactly.
He's
There
6'6".
needs,
He's 6'6". He'll learn how to block.
yep. There's no perfect like draft prospect,
Yeah,
and there's got to be something negative to be said.
right.
But I mean, we've got Kyle Pitts, but I was kind of watching not film because I don't have access to film, but highlights. You know, like on Pat Fryermuth out of Penn State. I kind of wanted to talk about him
Yeah,
and Brevin Jordan, just because they have potential to be someone like a Travis Kelce, with Pat Fryermuth kind of being most in that same vein. Like, he has the height to create that the mismatch against safeties, like Travis Kelce can do. 6'5", 256 for Pat Fryermuth, and then they're kind of calling him the baby Gronk. So,
Ooh,
like, kind of watching him play, he's big, strong, and he's fast enough, and he's got hands. Like, he can catch the ball, and he's similar to, I would say, like George Kittle, in the sense that sometimes it takes 3 guys to bring him down, and even then, he's still getting like 4 or 5 yards with 3 guys hanging on to him. So he's big as hell, and like
big
he's
as
gonna
hell.
he's big as hell. He's gonna probably fall to the 2nd round, but like a tight end needy team like the Dolphins, Jacksonville, Titans, or like the Texans, I got him maybe going to the Rams. If he lands on a tight end needy team, he has the potential to be like, a 3-down tight end in this league. And then in the same sense, Brevin Jordan out of Miami, he's like an inch shorter, kind of similar in the sense that they both can catch. They're both big, they're both strong. Less on the mismatch with Brevin Jordan, I saw on the highlights. But if he goes, like I said, to a tight end needy team, like the ones mentioned before, he could be a 3-down starter. These are more like dart throws, I feel, to where
Yeah,
there's a chance they work out, there's a chance they don't. But keep an eye out for those two, like you could maybe use in like a dynasty draft, maybe use like a 7th, 8th pick, because they're going to fall dynasty wise. But there's some
yeah.
potential with both of those guys.
And you mentioned being fast enough. I like that because not every tight end is going to have 4.44 speed.
Yeah.
Like Kyle Pitts. Like he's
Yeah.
a freak, I
He's
don't
just a
like
freak.
using like freak. Yeah, I don't like using freak like in a negative connotation, but he is a freak athlete in a sense that he is far above average physically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Those are 2 guys to look out for. I'm excited to see where they go, and I think a lot of that that's the theme of this whole episode. I think is where these guys go. Like
Yep.
we saw with oh man, I'm drawing blanks again today. Running back from KC,
Oh, Clyde.
Clyde, yeah,
Yeah.
CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's a guy that he stepped into Kansas City, and the other running back sat out for the season. That's opportunity. That's what you're looking for in Dynasty. You're not always looking for the guy that you think's better a football player, but a guy that steps into a really good spot that's going to, get your team points and
Yep.
just have the opportunity. If a guy's getting 20 carries as a running back a game, he's going to have more chances to get you more points than a guy that, is splitting carries 3 ways, So
Exactly.
that's kind of what we're looking at here. And this draft class is really stacked, I think, with guys that are like we said last year. Last year was kind of the outside receivers, big go up and get it guys. This year is kind of more like slot speed receivers, more like gadget players, I think. But there's still a lot of other guys that I think have a lot of potential, like depending on where they go, obviously, situation they get put in and what they're expected to do. I think they have a lot of potential to produce fantasy-wise. One guy I want to highlight as one of those kind of speedy guys, Tutu Atwell out of Louisville.
Okay.
He's 5'8" and 155 pounds. So you talk about Devontae Smith being undersized. This guy is undersized from NFL standards. So he's probably going to slide for that reason. But 2019 stats, he had 12,086 yards, or 1,286 yards, excuse me, 12,000, and 12 touchdowns. He runs a 40 and 4.32. He's blazing in-game speed. Like I said, when you watch him, he's another guy that he just like there's a difference between like hearing his 40 time and then watching what he does to players on the field. And then when you watch him play, he looks just leaps and bounds faster than everybody else, in my opinion. Yeah, so
kind of
that's
like
a guy
everybody
that
else is in slow motion. Like
exactly.
he's right. He's in. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's one guy that I wanted to just, and he's shifty too. He's just a guy that if you get him in space, get the ball in his hands, he's going to make a play. And maybe he ends up being kind of like maybe a kick returner or something, and he doesn't get a lot of opportunity. But I think if he gets an opportunity in one of these established offenses, that he could maybe be a catch monster or, something like that. So that's one guy I wanted to call out. I know you guys had a couple guys you wanted to mention as well.
Actually, in the same vein as Gadget player, I like Jalen Darden out of North Texas. Almost the same size. He's 5'8". He's a little heavier than the guy you mentioned. He's 174. What I like about him is he could be a good gadget guy. I like that he played quarterback in high school. And then his first 2 years at North Texas, he actually contributed mostly on special teams and was a backup. Then as a junior, he became the team's leading receiver. And for the next 2 years, he actually earned the record in receiving receptions and receiving touchdowns for North Texas. After listening to the guy talk, it seems like he has a lot of heart, which is good. But, he has that knock on his size, which, I think size overcomes heart in the end. Do you want to be an NFL receiver? Do you want to make it? He has a good story. Strength-wise, he's super shifty.
Did you mean heart overcomes size?
What did I say? Size overcomes heart?
Yeah.
Yeah, switch that around.
I don't care how much heart you have. If you're a monster, screw you. You're gonna get
you're gonna get stomped, and Godzilla is gonna step on your ass. But yeah, so heart does overcome size, I believe, in the end. Super shifty. He can turn on a dime. The way he can change and turn on the burners, with his speed.
I watched him after your recommendation. He's got a cool quote that he said in an interview I watched, and he's like making guys miss is like eating breakfast. Yeah. I have to do it every day.
And that's sweet. Yeah, dude, and that's what he does. He's scary when you give him the ball. He's got good yards after catch. And then besides that, the knocks are his size. And then I read some scouts saying that because of his size, he kind of shies away from the middle of the field and he doesn't like to get hit. But you put him into the right place, you see what he has, use the tools that are given to you. Goes to the right spot and is used well. I think he could be a steal, super low in a dynasty draft. And he's going to probably go early 4th round, late 4th round in the NFL draft. He's not a slouch. He was pretty much his team's offense last year.
Yeah.
And before. It's insane.
And you're right. He played at North Texas, obviously a smaller school. But when you play at a school like that and you are the offense, like you said, watching him play, the whole entire offense runs through him. All the big plays run through him. He's the guy making things happen. Mm-hmm. And I agree. He's blazing fast. He's really fun to watch. I'd like to see if it translates.
He's got some potential.
Absolutely. Depending on the situation, like we said.
Yep.
What about you, Steve? You said you had a couple guys, right?
Yes. So I would agree. I watched Darden play after Ryan said something about
Tell that dog to shut up, Ryan.
You go.
Come here. Where's he at?
Let me grab him. Hugo,
get over here, boy.
Yeah. Let me rub your belly.
Yeah, Darden. Yeah. That guy's a monster, though. And it must be something in the water because I have another utility type of guy who may not start right away, but it's Dwayne Eskridge out of Western Michigan. I think he's 5'9", somewhere around 5'9". I have it right here. Yeah, 5'9", 190 pounds though, so he's got weight on both your guys. Beat him up in a
Okay.
fight, you know.
Right.
This guy is he's a monster. I think he's got great route running. He can adjust his hips, throw off a defender. I was watching him in the Senior Bowl, like one-on-one versus the defensive backs, and he was torching the defensive backs throughout his whole career. At Western Michigan, he averaged 20 yards a catch. Pretty impressive.
I'm gonna go grab that real quick.
Yeah, better go grab.
It's all good. Oh, Hugo. I actually agree, Steve. Dwayne Eskridge is, and talk about Western Michigan, they're like, they had Corey Davis. They have some good receivers coming out of Western Michigan. So it might be something in the water up there. But yeah, Dwayne Eskridge looks in the same cloth as, like you said, Jalen Darden, just like another kind of gadget guy that can get it done. I think one of these three guys that we're talking about.
He apologizes.
Oh, Hugo, what a big boy.
Lay down.
Bald-looking Hugo.
Now go lay down.
That's funny.
A mouse farts and he barks.
Yeah.
He's so skittish.
Yeah,
I could have a person break into my house and like point a gun at my head, and like my dog Rigger would be like, "What's up, dude? Yeah. Carry on with whatever you're doing."
Man, I'm sleeping right now.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's 175 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you where everything is at. Just leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about Dwayne Eskridge though, right? Steve brought him up. Western Michigan, another guy. Like I said, one of these three guys that we're talking about, probably is going to get into a good position and be fantasy relevant.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're highlighting them because, obviously there's a lot of speculation. The draft hasn't happened yet. It's next week. But a lot of these guys, or these three guys that we're talking about, have blazing speed, can make things happen in the open field, can be a catch monster. There's a lot of slot positions opening. I'm looking at Edelman just retired. Look at the career he had. Obviously, he played with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but still, we're talking about guys that can get you, a lot of PPR points potentially and things of that nature. So one of these guys is probably going to hit.
I would say out of the three, and like we said, they're similar. I like that Dwayne Eskridge as well. Like he looks electric, and so I just like it's like that theory. Just always look out for those guys from the smaller schools that have something to prove. Yep. Isn't that where 100%. Antonio Brown came from? Was Western Michigan?
I believe it was Western Michigan.
One of them.
Yeah, I think it was. And Corey Davis, Western Michigan. Like I said, they're kind of like wide receiver U of the MAC.
Yeah, serious.
Yeah, Eskridge, he's a small guy, but he's not a pushover, so I like him.
For sure. One other guy. So there's a couple other wide receivers that I like a lot. And I'm going back and forth. I'll just say their names. There's the two is Amon-Ra St. Brown from USC. I think he's a polished NFL wide receiver already. He's another guy that's just got great ball skills. He makes catches at the point of attack. He makes NFL style catches, and what I mean by that is like they're always contested. They're not always the best thrown. He's going up and getting it in the middle of the field and coming down with it and holding on to it, getting hits put on him. He's 6'1", 195, kind of the more like figure out of the guys that we're talking about. But you're more standard, I would say, NFL wide receiver. Runs a 4.5 40. Nothing crazy fast, but enough definitely to get it done. And then the other guy that I have is Rondell Moore out of Purdue. He's 5'8", 180 pounds. And he's a guy that had a lot of injury. He had surgeries last year. He hasn't really produced since his breakout year in 2018, which I think was his freshman year. But listen to his freshman year. He had 1,258 yards, 114 receptions, and 12 touchdowns. and the guy ran a 4.29 40.
Whoo.
So blazing fast. And you talk about physical guys that are just physically better, like physically more gifted than a lot of these other guys we're talking about. This is kind of the guy at Purdue. He apparently, when he was 18, when he came into Purdue, he was already squatting 600 pounds. Like the guy,
Oh.
yeah, as a senior in
Okay.
high school. So the guy is just like a physical specimen that can get it done. He hasn't really produced, since then, and he's had some hamstring issues. And I think about Tyreek Hill, another speedy guy that's kind of smaller. He has a lot of hamstring problems, Tyreek Hill. I feel like you're going to miss at least 2 or 3 games a season because, Tyreek Hill pulled a hamstring. I kind of see that in Rondell Moore a little bit, but a physical specimen similar to Tyreek Hill. And to give you another example of his physical, just, powers. So we talked about out of the top 3 guys, Jamar Chase being kind of like the number 1 physically gifted guy of the top 3. Yeah. He has a 41-inch vertical, right? I said that earlier. Rondell Moore is 5'8". Jamar Chase is 6'1". Jamar Chase is 6'1" with a 41-inch vertical. Rondell Moore is 5'8" and has a 42.5-inch vertical. Like, the guy is just a physical beast.
Yeah.
And I think if he can refine what he did in his freshman year and maybe work through his injuries and surgeries and get back on the field. He didn't do a pro day, I don't believe. But yeah, I think that guy, Rondell Moore, has just all the physical tools to be an an elite NFL receiver if he can stay healthy. So that's one guy that I wanted to. So out of the 2 that I said, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Rondell Moore, I think those are other 2 guys to look out for.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Steve.
really like Rondell Moore. He's one of the guys since his freshman year. I remember he came into the league, Big Ten at least, and he came to Purdue. Watching the game, I'm like, who is this guy? Like, he's a freshman, but I hear his name constantly, and I think Moore he's definitely the best receiver out of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But he's one of the guys that I just kept hearing his name year after year after year. It's Rondell Moore, and I'm like, all right, like this guy's going places. And yeah, he's a small guy, but he can get up there and he can grab balls, contest 50-50 balls thrown to him. So I like Rondell Moore a lot.
And yeah, and when that Ohio State game that Purdue upset Ohio State in 2018, he was kind of like a big part of that. Obviously, he had a breakout game. Yep. He had a play that I remember that he just ran over like 2 Ohio State defensive backs in one play. And then I was thinking about him squatting 600 pounds as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. I was like, yeah, that's probably why. He's just different.
He eats a lot of spinach.
Yeah,
he's a monster. I'm trying to find his stat line. Yeah, 12 receptions, 170 yards for 2 touchdowns. Yeah, against Ohio State. That was a good game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So anybody else you guys got it wide receiver wise? I mean, it's wide open.
Yeah, I think this year, especially dynasty purposes, I think wide receivers are very deep. You can go into the 3rd, 4th round and get good quality receivers. A guy like Rashad Bateman, I think Rashad Bateman would be a great fit on someone like Green Bay. You got Rodgers thrown to him. I mean, really, I guess any receiver would be good when you got Rodgers thrown to him. But I like Rashad Bateman. He's a 6'2", 210. He can track the ball really well. He's a very well route runner, and he's got the good size. So this receiving class, I believe you said, Mike, is very small. A lot of small guys, quick. Moore is I'm on Moore still. Bateman is a little taller, so
6'2", yeah.
Yeah, little taller, not gigantic, but I think he's
more stereotypical NFL size, I'd say.
Yeah, and he's got like that highlight reel, Odell Beckham catches, they're going to be on top 10 ESPN. So I do like Bateman a lot, but I feel like there's a ton of receivers in this class that are just very quality receivers. So
And that's what we're talking about. You guys, like when we're even, I don't love watching the draft. Sometimes I don't like, I'll maybe watch the first couple picks and then, read the rest of them. But like a lot of these, you just have to pay attention to where these guys go, and what situation they're in. That obviously makes a huge difference. A guy going to Kansas City or a guy going to, like, the Packers is a really good example. I think that's a perfect place for one of these guys to step into with a veteran, smart, elite quarterback. And they also don't have the pressure of having to be the number one guy, and they can kind of get work, and I think that's a big thing we're going to be looking for.
The next guy I want to talk about, that's actually where I kind of feel like he'll thrive the most. Like, I feel like if you pencil him in, having Aaron Rodgers, not having that pressure of being the number one right off the bat, I feel like he could thrive. And that's going to be Dimey Brown out of North Carolina. There's only one caveat with like his skill set is that a lot of the scouts report he has some issues with drops. And unfortunately, that's kind of like what their number two guy, Scantling, he's also had some issues with drops, and some big time plays. But just in terms of kind of like a polished receiver, everything else is good about Dimey Brown. Like off the line of scrimmage, he's electric, top-notch speed and acceleration. And then over the last 100 receptions, he's averaged 20 yards over his last 100 receptions, which is a beautiful stat. And then he was kind of like the big deep ball threat for the North Carolina Tar Heels. And so they could actually like throw him right where Valdez Scantling is if he can prove himself and like be slotted right in there. And then the Packers need another receiver, and it's projected that they're going to take one second, third round probably. And I feel like Dimey Brown, you could just throw him right into the Packers, have him be thrown to by Aaron Rodgers, and he could probably like flourish pretty well in that system.
Absolutely. Drops as a thing that these guys will have to work out, and I think that is something that you can work on to an extent. Rashad Bateman, you brought him up, Steve. He's another guy I wanted to kind of bring that up about. He had 19. So I had one of his things I had on him was he had 19 of 166 catchable balls that he dropped, and that was kind of one of his down checks. So it'll be interesting to see, I think. But yeah, the same thing that we were talking about. If these guys go to an elite quarterback, a good established offense where they have the comfortability to work, and they don't have to worry about having to, make everything happen by themselves.
Yes.
Then I think then they'll be fantasy relevant, and we'll be all excited about them come our draft. But
a receiver with like the drops problem, that's something that can be solved with confidence and with your quarterback as well. Because Deontay Johnson, like the last little stretch last year, he was having some issues with drops, but that's where the quarterback takes him in. It just tells him it's all in your head, you know what I mean? And kind of like instills that confidence and brings him back. Because near the end, like he put up a couple of good fantasy point games and like the drops kind of stopped. But that's what separates, the okay ones from the great ones in the end.
Yep. And even Deontay Johnson's a great example of that. Who's the receiver that was in Nelson Aguilar? Mm-hmm. He's another one. Look at what he did in Philly. Like, people were saying he couldn't catch anything. He was like just dropping every single ball. Mm-hmm. He goes to a new system in Oakland with Derek Carr, and he has a few, really great games and makes some good plays. And then by the end of last season, we're talking about him like number one on your waiver wire to pick up, like extremely fantasy relevant,
Yep.
So another guy. Yeah, I agree. Confidence thing. Yeah. A lot of like we just talked about. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just gonna say, speaking of Dimey Brown, I know we'll get to this in a bit, but them running backs on the Tar Heels, they're nice guys. Yeah, they're nice guys.
We'll go right into that right now. I mean,
all right, let's do it.
Those guys, they led the season, or they pretty much led the country as far as like 1-2 guys go. You really didn't see that from any other team where both their running backs were 1,000-yard rushers. Yeah, they just both had really good seasons, and maybe that is a knock. Steve, you brought this up before the show, is like, okay, they split carries. Why did they split carries? Can they be 3-down guys? Can they be fantasy relevant? So obviously that is a question, but I think they both got it done. And when you watch them watch the tape, they both look like guys that can get it done at the next level. I mean, talk about Javonte Williams first, 5'10", 212. 2020 stats, he had 1,140 yards, 157 carries, and he averaged 7.3 yards per carry. Michael Carter, the other one, he averaged 8 yards per carry, and they only had one carry difference. Javonte Williams had 157, Michael Carter had 156, and they had pretty similar stat lines. I mean, they both had very productive seasons. They have about the same speed, 4.5-ish. I think Michael Carter was slightly faster, 4.50 versus 4.55 of Javonte Williams. But Javonte Williams is known as, I would say, the better back, the more polished NFL back. He's stronger. He seems to be tougher to bring down. Just physically, he just seems more like an NFL back. I think Javonte Williams will be fantasy relevant immediately. Wherever he steps in, because I think whoever's going to get Javonte Williams is going to be a running back needy team. I don't think he's coming in to, maybe he is to come in and sit behind a veteran guy, but I think he's a guy that will stand out quickly, similar to what we saw in Jacksonville last year with, God, I'm forgetting his name again. I forgot his name last week.
Robinson.
Right.
Yep.
God.
Robinson. He was on my team, and I keep forgetting his name. I love James Robinson.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Javonte Williams is a guy it could be like James Robinson, where he comes in, they have a veteran running back, and they just say, this guy's better, and they play Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I hope it goes to Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
I like him over Najee Harris. And obviously, Najee Harris is a beast, but that Javonte Williams, man, I think it'd be a good fit in Pittsburgh. And like how you were saying, like theory-wise, why did they split carries? Like I said it before, I just feel like if you look at Stefanski with the Browns, the reason why that it's the two-headed monster there with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is because they're both electric, talented backs. So
they're both that good.
They're both that good. So if you have them, and then you have Baker Mayfield, who's not a slouch, but he's not the best quarterback, you design your offense around them and run it through the two-headed monster. And I feel like with the skill set of both those running backs, I just think that UNC, I think they have smart coaches. And they're like, well, if we have both of these backs, let's run plays that highlight both of them. And at the same time, it's less wear on them. So I think it could actually move their draft stock up in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think I didn't think about that, but yeah, I think Pittsburgh would be a great spot for Williams. I mean, I love Williams also. He's just a tackle breaking machine. He's not going down. One guy's not bringing him down. So I think the Steelers, now that Connor is gone, I think the Steelers is definitely a great spot for him. So
some people are saying they might want to pick up Najee Harris, but I'm pretty sure that Williams is faster than Najee, because that's the one knock against him. If you look at the draft and the scouting profile on Najee Harris, is he lacks that speed, that playmaking
breakaway speed.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
To where like, okay, look, I broke off, that 10-yard run, but a faster running back with a similar skill set would have made it a 30, just because someone catches up to him. That's the only knock against Najee. Like, he's still a stud. He hasn't fumbled the damn ball. I mean, give me a break. Give me a running back that holds on to the ball,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so with the three guys that I think that we're going to talk about the most, other than Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, and Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne, 5'10", both around 215, 210 pounds. Michael Carter's 5'8", 201 pounds. So a little bit smaller guys. More like your stereotypical back, almost closer to the 5'10" range, I'd say. Najee Harris is 6'2" and 230. That dude is a monster. And that's great for NFL teams. Look at look at Derrick Henry. He's plus size back. And maybe he doesn't have breakaway speed, but that doesn't matter if he's throwing 3 defenders out of his way on his way to a 25-yard run.
And he can catch.
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of Josh Jacobs comps to Najee Harris. I like that. He's obviously a little bit bigger than Josh Jacobs, I think. And as far as just like, I don't know, man, Alabama is just like, we talked about Western being wide receiver U of the MAC. Alabama is running back U of the country. And that's like without, it's not a question anymore. But Najee Harris had 251 carries, 1,466 yards, 26 rushing touchdowns, and 4 receiving touchdowns. Like you said, the receiving touchdowns are huge. Najee Harris can step into a 3-down back roll and have the ceiling of like CMC. We're talking like very big potential running back wise. If you're in a dynasty league, I'm definitely trying to get Najee Harris on my team. I think the world of Najee Harris as far as like the running back class goes, but I think Javonte Williams, my card at UNC backs, one or both of those guys is going to have an impact as well, depending on where they go.
Just pray they don't go to the Bills. Pray they don't go to the Bills.
Yeah. The running back, we can call that the running back graveyard right now.
Yes.
They keep trying.
They keep trying. And they'll probably draft one of them, man.
They probably will.
In. Yeah. And then Josh Allen will steal their touchdowns.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point. I don't really know where. I think maybe one of these guys can go sit behind one of those backs in like one of the places we're talking about, either like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, they're probably going to step right into a starting role for sure. New England, they'll probably step into a starting role, I'd imagine. But we know Bill Belichick loves his backs by committee and situational running backs. But I think that's another place that one of these guys could have a pretty big impact, especially Najee Harris talking about his catching ability. Bill Belichick loves that, so we'll see about that.
New England's going to run the ball a lot. They're going to run the ball a lot this year.
Yep. Yeah, and so Travis Etienne, the other guy that we didn't really talk too much about, obviously a lot of people really high on him. 5'10", 215 pounds. He usually, I think, sits around like 205. So he had a little weight on him is what I read during his pro day, and he maybe ran his 40 a little slower because of that. But his big plus is his speed, right? Travis Etienne is a breakaway runner. He's a pretty reliable pass catching back, but really he can just like run away from guys and have that. What we're talking about, Najee Harris might not have as much is that breakaway speed. Like I said, he ran his 40 at his pro day is 4.41, which is still fast, still very fast for a running back. But I think he runs a little bit faster than that in game, because he's usually a little bit lighter. What do you guys think about Etienne?
Yeah, Etienne's a guy who can get the ball and almost be a home run hitter on any carry. He just has to get past that first level of defense, and once he's in the secondary, he'll outrun anyone except DK Metcalf. But Etienne speed, I like him. He is a good receiver. I think Harris may be the best receiving running back in this class, but I think Etienne has the best speed. Etienne would probably, to me, be. It's hard to say, but I feel like Etienne would probably be the third back, out of Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, and then Etienne himself. But it's one of those 1A, 1B, 1C. You could sell me on any of these guys.
Oh, you got him that close, huh?
Yeah. Well, I have. Yeah. Maybe
that's fair.
maybe Najee Harris and Javonte Williams, 1A, 1B, and then 2 would be Etienne. But I do like those 3 guys, and then may as well lump Michael Carter in there. But besides that, I feel like running backs are a little thin in this draft. Maybe it's just because we went over receivers, and the receiving core in this draft is ridiculous. But
Sure.
Mhm.
I feel like running backs, when I was doing some research, there wasn't too many guys that, you can go deep and get. Um, I'm trying to think of where ETN would be a good fit.
I got an idea. So let's
What
say
is it?
that the Dolphins, I think they might go offense in terms of their pick. So Dolphins, they pick whoever falls to them receiver wise at the 6th pick. It could be Chase, it could be Devonta, and then I don't think any of these running backs are worth a first rounder, but I think with the Dolphins' 2nd round pick, they pick up ETN because I'm pretty sure they pick pretty early in the 2nd round, and like ETN, I think is going to probably be the first running back off the board just because of the way that the draft profile is saying what the scouts say. He seems like the more complete back out of all these guys, and I think that the running back committee that's in that is the Dolphins right now, it's not solidified. Myles Gaskin is great, but I think if you throw ETN into that Dolphins backfield, he's the number one right off the right off the bat. So I think that could be a good spot for him.
So another Florida team, Tampa Bay, I've heard them linked to these running backs. Obviously
Really?
they have, yeah, and obviously they have not the best draft capital when you talk about the 32nd pick, but you never know. And we saw what playoff Lenny did. Yeah, playoff Lenny did, but I don't think that's sustainable for a season, and we obviously saw that it really wasn't sustainable for the season. Wasn't really fantasy relevant, and I also don't think who's the rookie last year for Tampa Bay?
Keyshawn something? Is it?
Yeah, Keyshawn Vaughn.
There you go.
Keyshawn Vaughn, he didn't get the best opportunities, but when he did get an opportunity, I think he fumbled and he had some problems and issues or whatever. But I've heard Tampa Bay might be in the hunt for one of these guys, and I think Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, those guys are going to be valuable, even if it's at the 32nd pick. Najee Harris, in my opinion, I think Najee Harris is probably the guy that you'd probably want to go get out of these three. PFF has them ranked. Javonte Williams is the RB1 and they're on their big board at 53. Najee Harris is RB2 at 65. Travis Etienne RB3 at 66.
Okay. That's
so
fair.
It's interesting that you thought that Etienne would be the first, and I agree. I think most NFL scouts and NFL heads probably look at him as the most NFL ready. Plug him in and get production from him where you want. But I don't know, man. A lot of people are high on Javonte Williams too. I think these four guys, you really can't go wrong with any of them.
Rightfully so. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. And with if Tampa Bay takes a running back, because didn't they just sign the mustache Giovanni Bernard?
Oh yeah, you're right. Wait, did they?
I'm pretty sure they just signed him. I don't know if it was like a 1-year deal.
Yeah, they might have. I think you're right. I know Giovanni Bernard went somewhere that made me like, what? And
I think what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm gonna double check that.
And Giovanni Bernard can still get it done, I believe, in the right spot. But I think he's another one that maybe is like, that's probably a good example. Like, that's a good example. I think if they get Najee Harris or Javonte Williams or one of these guys, I think there's a high likelihood that maybe Giovanni plays 1 or 2 games. And they just say, listen, the young kid is just better for what we're trying to do right now. He's getting it done. He's faster, he's younger, whatever the case may be. But I just think that's a good example. I think one of these guys is going to step up and be very fantasy relevant next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did check, Ryan. Tampa did sign Gio. But I think Carter or Williams would be a great spot, knowing that Tampa signed Gio, because they're already used to that committee. They would share time with, Gio Bernard, and eventually probably take over that role. But starting day one, they're gonna land somewhere. They're gonna have to split time, get used to the offense.
Yep.
ETN, yeah, maybe the only day one starter. But I think Geo and Williams or Carter would be a good fit. So
Yeah, because like it seems like with the Tampa Bay offense, like if a running back proves themselves and their capability, like Arians lets them run because that's what he did with Ronald Jones. Like
Yep.
they had a pretty stacked running back room, but Jones got the majority of the carries, going into the playoffs. And that's where, like you said, playoff Lenny kind of emerged. But it feels like if there's a guy, Bruce Arians is not afraid to let them run. So one of these guys goes there, like you said, Javante or even like Najee, like both of their skill sets, they could emerge as the number one back in Tampa. I definitely agree with that.
yeah. And hey, you were getting it wrong. You said Tampa Bay offense. I think you meant Tom Brady offense.
Right? Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
Tampa. Yeah.
yeah, Tampa.
Tampa. Yes.
Old Tampa Bay. I can't wait to see him slugging beers next year after the next Super Bowl. That was so funny. Did you guys see all that? The boat parties and all that was so funny to watch.
He like
I don't care.
he threw the trophy.
Yeah.
People were saying it was disrespectful. It's like, well,
That's sick.
he was drunk. Have you done disrespectful things when you were drunk?
Yeah.
I took off
That's
my
actually
clothes
like-
and I went to a pool. Like,
Yeah. That's actually like pretty like tame for being drunk. Like
Right.
drunk after
Yeah,
a Super
right.
Bowl win. Like I would have been like
and also
on freaking
Tom Brady.
TMZ.
Yeah, Tom Brady's throwing it. You can at least trust him in the fact he's going to make the
Right.
throw from that distance.
Right.
You know?
If anything, you should be worried about the receivers and asking them like what were they thinking trying to
Yeah.
catch that thing. Yeah, I
Did
agree.
did you see his daughter in that video in the background? She's like, "No, Dad!" while he's throwing it.
That's awesome. At least someone is trying to be responsible.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun,
So-
man. That's fun.
So out of everyone that we talked about, I know you kind of brought this up, Mike, but who is one guy that you think is going to have the best fantasy performance depending on what team they go to? I mean, you can pick the team. So Ryan, you said Kyle Pitts and Atlanta. You know, who's one guy out of everyone we talked about that you think is going to have the best fantasy performance this year? And I could have just said it. So,
And you want me to pick the player and the team that I think that would be the
Yeah.
best?
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was trying to think about this also. And
In most leagues, I would say the most valuable. I would agree. I would think it would be Kyle Pitts, and I think it would be I mean, I don't want to pick the same, but it's hard to go against that. Matt Ryan. He can get it. We know that Matt Ryan is a great quarterback. He needs weapons and he needs time. If he gets time, and even if per se he doesn't get time, I think he'll still have a lot of value with Kyle Pitts.
Exactly.
He's like a safety dump off, and he's like he's a receiver. He's a wide receiver one, but he's playing the tight end position.
Yep.
And it's so rare to see his physical capability. I just think there's no reason that he doesn't get it done. And I guess it really doesn't matter if it's the Falcons or otherwise. I think anywhere he goes, he's just a guy that is just a physical specimen that's going to step in and be the focal point of an offense.
Yep.
And I know it's a lot to say that, especially if he goes to a Falcons and he's got Julio Jones, but that's even maybe more the reason that he produces at a high level is because he's got Julio Jones and these guys over there to take a little pressure off of him. So I
Exactly,
think,
man.
yeah, in his first year.
yeah,
If-
absolutely.
If Julio can stay healthy, and like I said, just imagine having a healthy Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and then you got, like you said, Kyle Pitts as your safety. Like they're not open. All right, I'll just throw it, 6 inches above or however like high his radius is. I could throw it 10 feet above his head and he's going to catch this ball. Like it doesn't matter where he's at on the field.
Yeah.
Right.
Like just having that, and I just as a fit, like I'll just kind of piggyback and just say I just like Pitts with the Falcons if they pick him. The tackle class is pretty nice this year. It's pretty strong in terms of like if Penny goes off the board, there'll still be some offensive linemen you can take. And I think that they do need some defense as well. But if the Falcons don't trade back, because I don't think they're going to take a quarterback, I think they're going to take Pitts, and then Kyle Pitts just has that potential to be like
Also,
a fantasy star.
I'll say this as I guess a note. If the only reason I wouldn't be as high on Kyle Pitts is if he went to one of these places that has one of the tight ends that we talked about.
Yeah.
Waller, Hawkinson,
Yep.
Kelsey, where if they start running a two tight end, like I've heard him linked to the Lions at least once, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we would do crazy damage up there, me and Hawkinson," and I guess then I might be a little bit more skeptical about plugging him right in because then maybe they both go off and maybe it is like a Gronk and Hernandez situation like back in the day.
Yeah. Well,
but
even if he does fall to the Lions, you could line him up at wide receiver, no
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
He's fast enough to beat the linebackers, and he's tall enough to beat the defensive backs. So
Yeah. So
the
I guess
guy-
I'll take it back. Yeah, I'm still, even if he goes to the Lions, we're talking about tight ends here, right? Especially if you're, like I said,
Yeah.
if you're talking about a tight end premium, super flex, any of that stuff, I'm gonna draft Kyle Pitts as high as I can get him and play him anywhere, pretty much. So yeah.
Oh, well, how about this? Patriots trade up to the Lions spot. Take Kyle Pitts. So now they have Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry, and Johnny Smith.
Yeah,
Do
the
you
three
take
tight
Pitts
end
then?
set.
They come up
The
with
dreaded.
three.
Yeah.
I think at that point they just move Jonu Smith to left tackle and call it a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
There
right.
you go.
I didn't think about this, but I actually really like Javonte Williams in Pittsburgh because Lord knows Pittsburgh, they know how to pick the running backs. They've done it exceptionally well with Lev Bell and James Conner, so I think the next guy, if they draft a guy, I think Williams would be a great fit and could definitely be a starter and a producer this year for fantasy.
I think when they draft one of these four guys that we're talking about, because let's just be honest,
Okay.
Pittsburgh, they don't have James Conner, and I don't think they got what they wanted out of the other two backs.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't remember their names right
No,
now.
I know that's the bad thing because I was trying to remember who was behind Connor, and for the life of me, I
Benny
can't.
Snell. It was
Benny Snell,
Yep,
yeah.
Snell,
and there was another one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
We know. We're gonna get I'm glad we're not like big NFL experts because people will be coming after us like you motherfuckers don't even know.
You don't
But,
know every name of every human that ever existed? What are you,
Yeah.
stupid?
Players DMing us. Hey man,
Yeah.
that was really disrespectful. You not remembering who I am. Yeah, we're not worried about any of that. So anyway,
no, but I think Pitts. It's not even a question. Pitts is probably all around the best. He's going to have the best year. So the guy's just a unicorn.
for sure.
Are we still on running backs?
We are. If you have any more.
Yeah, so I have two guys that are going to be kind of like dark horses. And they both kind of exceed where the other one fails. But like if they work their kinks out, I think they could be NFL and possibly fantasy relevant once again, like wherever they land. And I think once the draft's over and we can kind of plot, okay, this guy went here, this guy went there, we can do like an even better analysis on each of these guys. And like,
Absolutely.
okay, yeah, Pitts goes to the Falcons. He has Matt Ryan throwing to him. All right, number one pick in your dynasty draft. Pick him over what's his name?
Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
But I guess you wouldn't do that, but that'd just be hype. But
I would.
have, right? I don't know. It's just more of a proven thing. It's kind of it's kind of a hot take, but especially in a tight end premium, which is what our dynasty is, like he's super valuable.
Right. Sure.
But I have Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State. He's not as high on draft boards because he actually opted out a little bit into the 2020 season. I can't remember how many games he played, but the majority of his highlights come from 2019. What's good about Kylan is powerful runner, can run in between outside the tackles, and he has a really good low center of gravity, and he can like punish people. The dude has a pretty mean stiff arm, and I think he's similar to Najee Harris in the sense that he has great hands and he's a competent pass catcher, but I think he's a little bit faster than Najee. So he actually kind of like goes up a little bit for me. I mean, it doesn't take anything away from Najee Harris. Like, he is
Sure.
the better draft prospect, but this is a guy that's kind of like more raw in the rough. And one of the best things about him is he can absorb contact really well. Like, he doesn't get knocked off balance. A lot of the times he can break that first tackle, which I think is really important for a running back in the NFL. And like I said, for him, a lot of the knocks on him is there's not a lot of tape on him this year, which some scout can say that's bad. Other scouts can say, all right, well, he didn't play as much, so that's good for his long-term sustainability. And I had one more. One of the things that he lacks, where like someone like Travis Etienne excels, is he doesn't have like true burst, that second gear burst of speed, and the vision as well. So he doesn't have that vision and burst combo that I think is pretty important. And then the other guy is Khalil Herbert out of Virginia Tech. He transferred to Virginia Tech last year, and it was like the first time he ran for 1,000 yards. So he came from Kansas. He didn't see a lot of work. So that could be a flag, like why didn't he get a lot of work in Kansas? But once he got to Virginia Tech, he rushed for 1,000 yards. I just think that with this back, he could be picked up late third, early fourth, and he could be just instantly put into a system and he would work. In terms of like watching his highlights, he kind of reminds me of Aaron Jones in the fact that he sees that lane instantly and he hits the hole at just like top speed. He hits it hard and he's electric in that sense, and great eyes for run development. So he actually has that burst in vision that Kylan lacks. The biggest knock for Khalil Herbert, what I've read, is his pass protection. He struggles there, and they don't really utilize him in the pass game. But he just reminds me of Aaron Jones in the sense that, like, man, when the hole's there, he's at it 100 miles an hour, and he's ripping off a 30-yarder. So both of those guys, you can keep an eye out for them just in terms of they're gonna drop low in the NFL draft, and they'll probably be somebody you could probably pick up off the waiver wire. You know, we could look at like a James Robinson situation. They're not going undrafted probably, but
Sure.
They'll probably be on your waiver wire, and you might be able to pick them up depending on where they go once again. And there could be something there.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert is a guy that I was actually going to highlight as well. I agree. He is kind of Aaron Jones-esque in that he's got great vision, balance, and it does seem like just he's another one, like we were talking about wide receivers, just knowing the game, knowing where they need to be. Khalil Herbert to me is the running back version of that. He just knows his position. He knows the holes. He knows the scheme. He seems like a smart back, and he does have that great burst through the hole. He's actually RB5 on PFF's big board.
No way.
Yeah, just behind Michael Carter. 2 spots behind Michael Carter actually. In the total rankings, Michael Carter is 89, Khalil Herbert is 91.
Okay.
So they're pretty high on him as well. But yeah, I agree. He is. That's pretty much my notes are the exact same as yours. He's got great vision and balance.
Just the way that the backs are utilized now, and it's going to continue to be as we go into like this passing NFL league, is that if you can get a rookie kind of like Khalil Herbert, where you can just use him for 3 years or use him on the rookie deal and move on, he's that type of guy where you can put him in and there's a good probability you'll get some production out of him. And that's just kind of like the way that the NFL is going, is less, unfortunately, because these guys get beat up the most. It's like, wouldn't you want to pay the guy that gets hurt the most money? But NFL, it's about the money. You know,
it's about the money, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're going to get paid less because they get hurt more, which sucks.
Yeah. True.
You know?
Yep. It's true. Yeah. Do you have any backs that you wanted to highlight, Steve? We kind of talked about it. I feel like you said, it's not a very deep class, but we did talk about, I think, everybody who is potentially going to be fantasy relevant, people to look out for. Yeah, and so that's the show today. I mean, I don't have nothing else we did. So just to recap, we went over tight ends, obviously Kyle Pitts, and then who was the Penn State, or not Penn State, I'm sorry, but who was the other tight end?
Pat Fryermuth.
Pat Fryermuth.
Or Fryermuth. I'm not sure. It's an odd name.
Yeah, the Fryer.
The Fryer. Yeah, let's call him the Fryer.
Yeah.
Look, he's big. I could see him breaking off some George Kittle type runs where he stiff arms a dude, rips off his shirt and his shoulder pads, rippling pecs, and he hits people with his pecs, and then he gets
Yeah.
like a 30-yarder.
Pat Fryer, the Fryer.
The Fryer.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah, we went over obviously those guys. Wide receivers, the top three: Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. And all the other guys that we went over, and then running backs obviously Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and then the UNC backs. I think those are our top four, with a couple honorable mentions from the other guys as well. But so that's our show. Three Fantasy Boys podcast, Monday, April 19th. We're on every Mondays. If you want to check us out, we're on Spotify, Pocket Cast, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. Still waiting to get on Apple Podcasts. That's one of the only ones. We're on Google Podcasts now. Find us on YouTube at 3 Fantasy Boys. Find us on Instagram at 3 Fantasy Boys. Myself, Motor City Mikey on Twitter or IG. Check us out every Monday, and that's all I got. Roll that music, Steve.
Peace. Thank you, Hugo.
Hugo, shut up.
Hugo, quiet.
Can't you hear the music? All right, y'all. Have a good week.
Oh, all right.
Last time, Mo usually has him in the cage.